Just had a question online about this pound Swiss. Uh, Obviously, the trend line is pretty strong. Bit of resistance coming here on the weekly and the monthly. If you look at the that's resistance there. This low here was also a high on the weekly, so it's kind of stuck between that range at the moment. But there's obviously a very strong trend breakout. Pound is still remains bullish. Um, and the Swiss is ambivalent, if not bearish. So I'd be looking to buy this on dips, as you have sort of for the last 7 or 8 months. There's no reason for this to break it. It hasn't broken significant lows at this stage. I mean, this low is not really significant, but at 52.13, it got underneath that low there was 52.23, so it hasn't even broken that low. And so, all intents and purposes, you're still in an uptrend, and you should keep that uptrend going. Sorry, I didn't mean to delete all of those. This high test bar would be signalling just the phase two. We had momentum sort of turning to the downside. A couple of days ago, we almost reached oversold, and we're now sort of working our way back to the top side. If you look at the last time it was back on the 50 EMA, you can see there is some major hidden divergence in that sense there. We're getting that lower lows from the last time it touched the 50. So I wouldn't be looking at it in terms of going long. I'd still certainly be trading the short side. Didn't have a real strong pullback from the last time it was on the 50, but if we take that high and we go to something like this low here, that's not really relevant. So you don't have Fibonacci support, but that's okay. We don't need Fibonacci support. You've got trendline support. You have horizontal support of this low here. So yeah, and certainly the moving average. So I'd be looking for long opportunities with all the momentum sort of certainly going with this trade, if that makes sense. Aussie jobs data, not expecting anything too significant out of Aussie jobs. They're looking up for, I think, 13.5, is it? Yeah, 13.5. Run with a 6% rate. I don't expect any huge numbers out on that, or any difference to that. And if it comes in line or not too far from it, then you're not going to get much of a movement out of the Aussie. Right. Dollar CAD. What happened there? Yeah, there it is. Dollar CAD. Looking, this one's come in classic Elliott wave. I demand you're looking at that, being patient, waiting for that retracement to the trend line or the 50 EMA, and getting price action confirmation. That's all good. As I wrote this morning, it has broken this last significant high, and that's your first signal that this downtrend is over. Personally, I see this particular pair as being a bit range bound. It's kind of like this crap here for a while, mainly because of the greenback strength and the rising Canadian dollar as well. Excuse me. So, yeah, broken that significant high. You're looking for it to pull back and then get to this high here. That's it certainly could do, and you'd be keeping an eye on it from what happens, as you indicated, around this area here when it gets there. But the weekly trend, and some people did trade this on the weekly, certainly looking pretty good. The high test off that bar, but if it does come back to this trend line on the weekly, then you're failing to get higher highs, which would be a concern for taking a new one. but in the little pullback on the daily, you'll be looking for sort of support around here, around these this area here in the 50. So you'll be looking to get long around here if that's your idea. Um, Fibonacci in that area there, 61, that horizontal, that's your sort of I want to get long area. And in that, the weekly wouldn't have really had a pullback to the trend line. Yeah, so that's just there. That's good. Okay, got quite a few emails to go through, which is great. Euro dollar. Waiting for retracement again. Using Elliott wave, that's fine. I don't mind that. The question on this is which trend line is relevant. To be honest with you, I don't think any of those ones. If any, it'd be the one from this high here. To me, the biggest trend line that's happening here is this one across here, which tagged that. I didn't just draw that. What I did do is the monthly. You can see I've got from that high to that high. Went back onto the daily to make sure I've actually got tagged the highs to the exact pip, and we can see that trend line obviously became resistance again. So I'd say that's the most significant one. If you're looking at just on the daily though, you might draw something like that and say, okay, well we'd expect resistance around here, $1.35, the 50 EMA as well, and you could suggest, with the central bank meeting tonight, we might get a bit of a run up, perhaps, and look to short around here somewhere. If the ECB tonight doesn't do what the market requires, which is do some sort of quantitative easing or go really need to kickstart inflation over there. They're really struggling economically. Italy's just fallen back into recession. Germany's starting to struggle, and now the Russians are putting sanctions on their products out of Russia. So, which will include gas coming into winter as well. I would say that they need to do some major stimulus, which they haven't done yet. They've just sort of lowered interest rates. And if they don't do that, major stimulus, which is quite possible, then you'll get some bullish action on the euro up into here. So that might give us the opportunity. But yeah, better to wait for the retracement. Although that's a strong low test bar, you'd wait for the retracement. Okay. Breakdown from support, potential support. Look, there is 92 is 92 is quite a reasonable level. You've also got that Fibonacci there is 50, as you've highlighted. I'd say it's that 50 fib is your support, 92, or even just a nice round number of 92 on the Aussie dollar. Obviously, there's no 92.01. That's not bad. Pretty close. That's your support level. Question came in saying, how would you place your entry and your target? It's just trading a break of support, which is not really the way I trade. But if you were going to do this, I would be looking at this support, the head and shoulders sort of area around here of 88, that low there, as your potential target. The way I would trade it is probably do half of it on the break. So you'd have your stop loss just under 92. If you're putting a target in this area here across these lows of 88, you then say, well, if that's 400 pips, then I'll do a 200 pip stop, just in case it tries to break through and then pull back. But on the retest is the biggest thing. I do a small amount of my capital on the break, and then getting at retest, and the move away from retesting 92 is when I'd add to the trade. But at this stage, it's, we're nowhere near doing that. As you can see, the 50 and the 200 are pretty flat, and it's 94.50 to 92 is your range, and it's just going nowhere, and it hasn't all year. Well, not all year, sorry, for the last 4 or 5 months. So, pretty dull old market there. Okay. Euro pound, 2 trades for setup and comment. Euro pound. You're doing half a risk on both, so you're not more than 1% exposed. That's good. 2 euro orders today. Alright. Euro pound is similar to the euro Swiss in that you're getting a pretty strong trend line. The euro should remain weaker, and the pound should remain relatively stronger. The only concern I have with both the pound Swiss and the euro pound is that the euro looks like it's we've got divergence here and a pretty strong buying bar. Looks like it's doing a little pullback phase 2. So that's kind of bullish on the euro, whereas the pound is a little bit ambivalent. It has found support on the 786 and this 68.20 level, which is off the weekly. That high there is pretty strong. As you can see, it's double top. Found support there as well, but again, yeah, it's not that strong, not as strong as what I see the euro. Yes, it should have a bit of a rally here. US dollar weakness sees the pound and the euro rally, but I see the euro probably a little bit stronger at this stage. Both banks, the ECB and the BOE, are meeting tonight. The BOE first, so looking at something like this is, you might expect it to come back up and test here, which means you wouldn't be triggered in. Take that away, yeah, like the pound Swiss, this would be looking at this trade, maybe looking at it yesterday for an entry. And I doubt you would have got in because the low is 18 and the low here yesterday was 15, so it's only 3 pips lower, so I doubt you would have got in. But there's certainly a potential trade in your analysis, even though you only said it this morning. Should have been looking at it yesterday with this bar, and it's a buyer bar. I won't be placing an order today. I wouldn't be placing an order today, not with the ECB and the BOE out. It needs to be a little more bearish for us to take that. Same with the pound Swiss. I'd wait until they are out of the way. I'm looking at it. Fibonacci, you're all good. Lower highs, lower lows, EMA resistance, horizontal resistance, RSI convergence, fib retracement, trend line resistance, hidden divergence. Okay, a hidden divergence, that's not correct. With hidden divergence, what you're looking at is this low, that high to that high, yep. And the last time, because that's the 2 times it tagged the 50, and the last time it tagged the 50 was, you'd say around, well, let's put a vertical line. Alright, so you're looking at RSI going from there to there, yeah. So that's hidden divergence. You should be looking at the peaks, and you could either go from, well, not really there, somewhere around here is what you're looking at. Even if you go back to these highs here, that one there, you still got that hidden divergence. Does that make sense? So just with your chart, you're looking at seem to be looking at the lows here and hidden divergences. That's what that arrow indicates, which is incorrect for hidden divergence. If that arrow is not indicative of hidden divergence, then that's okay. I stand corrected. Right. Oh, you had a Euro CAD as well. Euro CAD, yes. That looks good. Horizontal resistance. I think there's maybe trendline resistance on it. We'll have a look. Risk reward 1.5 if you're going to $1.45 or $1.44. Target 44.17. Okay. So 1 to 1.5. Fib retracement. Good. So EuroCAD. Yeah, there's a trend line. We're not quite back underneath that, but 44. I think that on the weekly that there's a yeah, there's pretty strong support there. The resistance came back, tested it, the support, and then support again. So you'd be looking at that as your target, and that's fair enough. You know, your risk reward, you're risking sort of 120 pips for about 150 pips. You might go sort of 110 to 150. That's not quite 1.5 to 1. But there's certainly an opportunity there now that we've got two bars of lower high, lower lows, and this is a seller bar, and this is what you'd be looking at. Again, the ECB tonight could go either way with the move. Right, get back under there. But these are just crossed over and back underneath that. You'd prefer to be selling this than buying it, especially with momentum peaking and coming off. Expect that to come back down again. Yeah. And again, there's even some hidden divergence in that this cycle. Last time it was up here, even that one there. There's some hidden divergence. If we go from there to here, we don't have Fibonacci, but if you change that, come here, you sucker. So that one there, we've got the 50, and you still got hidden divergence from this high to that high. So there is a potential trade there today, if you're willing to take on the ECB tonight. But this is quite a large support level, which is something you need to be concerned about and should note on your checklist which you have. Wait till tonight news before placing orders, potentially with both of those, the euro pound and the euro. The way I'd play it is, just do a small amount of capital, because it could run and then you have a huge bar like this that you go, well, shit, now I've missed out on the opportunity. Or it could do the other way and get you into the trade and take you out like the Euro Kiwi did. Well, did for most of us, got us into the trade and then the next day took us out. Yeah, so I'd just go in with a small amount of capital, and then if it confirms, you add to it. You could look at the lower time frames. Go in for today. I wouldn't trade the lower time frames at this stage. The 4 hours certainly above the EMA, but go in with a bit today, hoping that you get into the trade before the ECB tonight, which is I think about 10 o'clock tonight, and then when you get the cyclicity of the 4 hour coming under the EMA, add to the trade then. Does that make sense? Okay. All good. EuroCAD. Okay. Bit of a channel there, and you're on the top side of the channel. Lower highs below the moving averages. Horizontal resistance. Yeah. Bearish price action. Waiting for another seller bar. Good. You've now got that bearish price action. No major support in the way. Yeah, you've got this one here, which is 44.14 sort of area. And that's, so you've said no to that. Okay, good. Double negative, triple negative now. Fib retracement, yes. Trendline resistance, no. Slightly above the channel. Well, I think by the time you get into it, you'll be below the channel, won't you? Yeah. It closed right on it. Bearish and divergence. Yep. Good. It's all good. Cool. Alright, Kiwi dollar. It's gone further to the 100. I'm not on this, expecting to see a couple of distinct phases first. Kiwi dollar, it's gone sideways for so long. Yeah, looking at the weekly, there's a bit of a trend line support there. You've got horizontal levels everywhere because it's done so much work between 82 and 88, that 600 pips area. On the daily, there is divergence here, so you could be doing a pullback. Now on that, you'd be looking at, if you go from there, I think it's 1.272 is support. If you pull that up to this low here, you get 2 as even better support, but that's your previous uptrend. And we can see that support wouldn't necessarily do this unless you're trading a range, but so we're saying that you're range trading with the 200 going from flat. That's a distinct possibility as well, similar to the Aussie, but that's where you would have your extension zone, and say it's the 1.272, which crossed pretty much where the trend line crossed. So just going to the, I'll come back to that, Karen, to your analysis. Not sure why that's there, but this Fibonacci was the thing I noticed was a concern. You've drawn it from that bar there. I don't know why you didn't go to the top bar, but you've drawn that from there to there, which you can see because it's the 61 and the 50. I'll show you what you've done. You've gone from here and saying that that's there, right? Or effectively that. Oh, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. Okay, you've drawn it from. I just saw the angle of this and presumed you went that way. Okay, you got the 61.8. So you have done it the right way. But I wouldn't. Yeah, as I said, wouldn't be looking at it like that. I'd be saying, well, it's either a range or a trend reversal with this divergence and low test bar. I'd be looking at this as an extension zone, so drawing it from the last close above the 50, or the first close above the 50, and saying, well, there's my extension. So my apologies. You did have the fib, drew it correctly, but looking at it sort of as a retracement for a new, I'm not sure, a new phase one long. This blue box, you expect that's where it's going to get to, and you be perhaps looking for a short. Okay, if you're looking at it like that, in the sense that, okay, I want to get short, well then again it's the sort of first close under the 50, and you'd be saying, here's my Fibonacci, and I expect somewhere around the 61 and the 50 to meet the 50 EMA, and find a sell area there. There's no real sort of horizontal of note off the weekly. And that's too low, so yeah, you're not going to get a horizontal around there. But that's the way I'd be looking at it in terms of going short. Okay, someone wants me to go back to the Euro CAD and say, would you not consider where price has retraced to the where price has retraced to the S level, it's formed a double bottom. I would certainly think there's a huge amount of support there. Is it a double bottom? Not really. I mean, like that. I mean, it could be range bound at the moment, and setting up for a range bound. The moving averages are certainly flat enough for that to be the case, but I'd see this closity as pretty strong, and that's the way I'd be looking at it, saying, well, we're starting a new one down, especially with the momentum having come off, and now it's up here looking for another run down. This support line is a concern, and that's why I'd be having a target in that area to take advantage of if it does bounce off that again, because it's pretty strong short. Area chart. Area chart. Area chart. I'm not sure what you mean by area chart. Using a signal. I don't really use area charts, but yeah. We've done that Aussie dollar to the pound, and you've got this to go with it. So horizontal support 682. 6820 support, Fibonacci. Curious as to why you've chosen that one. Fib retracement 786, horizontal support above the moving averages. EMA support. I'd suggest that you have the 200. Oh, you don't have the 200. What's that thing that you're looking at then? What's this blue line? Was that a trend? I don't know if that's exactly a trend line. Linking that low to that, I think that's kind of bit of wishful thinking saying that's a trend line. It's kind of hard to get a trend line in there. It could be valid. It's not one that I would draw, but it could be valid. Drawing that, we're sitting on it or just above it at the moment. As I said, it could be valid, but it's not one that I would draw. And as you can see, this is the Fibonacci that I've drawn, is from that move up there. You've gone from this one, which I'm not sure exactly why. As the price sort of come back and gone again, I don't think there's much of a difference if you go there, but that's the one I would take it from. 68.20, yes, I've got that level as well from that high over here. So it's looking, it's coming up off being well oversold. The data is sort of a little mixed, but it's still pretty strong the way I read it. It was last night. It came at 0.3 or something. Manufacturing production month to month is 0.3%. The previous month was minus 1.3, and now it's 0.3. So I see that as an improvement. Okay, it wasn't 0.7, which is what they were expecting, but it's still good. So I'm still wanting to be long pound. And that's why you'd want to sell the euro pound and buy the pound Swiss, or buy the pound itself, the cable. Yeah. So what else we got on that? That's okay. And your notes, 15 pips below 68.13 reversal bar. Okay, cool. Pip risk 95. Risk reward 1.2 based on the extension level of 1.618. Lot size 0.2. $70.56. Yeah, I think it's around 70.40, but that's close enough. 71. Obviously, the 72 is the big one. I think you could probably get risk reward 1.25. 71.59. Really? 71.59. You're risking sort of 90 pips. If you go up to this 71.59, you're looking at 250 pips. So that's 2, not 1.2. Oh, 1 to 2.4. Okay. So I thought that was, you meant your risk reward is 1.2. Okay, 1 to 2.48. Yeah, that's good. Alright. And I presume you got your extension, the way you got your extension was from, the 61.8 is, you must have done that. Something like that. Maybe. Not exactly sure. Yeah, something like that. With your extensions, you draw that phase 2 and you get the 1.618 there. So you draw this phase 2 and you get your 1.618 up here at 74. How likely is that? With the way the US are going, the Russians are really putting a pretty heavy load onto the US dollar. 74 or at least 72 would be a reasonable target. 73. Okay. Still a few to go through. All very similar though. So this one is pound. horizontal hidden divergence. Yeah, that's a good pickup. Back to the 78.6. Strong resistance. Strong resistance. At 72 there is strong resistance. At 70 there's reasonable resistance as well. Danger here is that since it has broken down through the trend line and the EMA 50, it may retest and change direction to down. Yeah, it could. However, on your 50 end on your trend line, you haven't broken that low. So unlike the the dollar CAD where it has broken the previous significant move, the pound hasn't done that yet. So and perhaps look at this in the sense of the weekly. This okay has broken that trend line, but this low here is still intact, and it's not until that one does that I'd suggest that the trend line is, or the this this trend is actually finished. Does that make sense? Do you think the BOE will raise rates anytime this year? Well, there's been much talk about it. They've still got an asset purchase facility, so I don't know why they're even talking about raising rates. They've still got 375 billion in an asset purchase. Total money the Bank of England will create and use to purchase assets in the open market. So still that 375 billion. I'd thought they'd take that off the table before they start talking about raising rates. Do you really want to be raising rates whilst you're still creating money? I think that's a dangerous area. So, whilst their economy is doing very well, the pound is kind of like an interest rate hike for them anyway, because it'd be sort of people buying into their real estate with a higher pound is obviously going to be expensive for them to do so, and it'll also curtail their export industry. And so, and services, people going over there to visit for the Commonwealth Games, for just to wave at the Queen, all those reasons for visiting the UK, because you certainly wouldn't want to live there. Is with a higher pound makes it effective like an interest rate anyway. So I don't see them raising rates this year. That's my personal opinion, but there certainly has been a lot of talk about it because of their improving economy. With the higher pound, they'd want to be lowering rates to try and battle that, but I don't think they'll be lowering rates either. They need to get rid of that asset purchase facility first. Okay. EuroCAD, however, I've noted some issues with them. Can I please have your input? Right, and your issue with the EuroCAD is trend line up, nice, and it's back above that. Trend line down, nice, and it hasn't really broken out of that wedge that you probably identified. My biggest concern with this is that this high here, those lows there, which is at 44.15 area, is a big support. That's my biggest concern. However, let's go to, notice you put big lots of notes on your daily one. The issue here is that the weekly chart shows a strong uptrend and is just bouncing off that trend line with a ring low. Yep. Also, RSI shows convergence and is midway, whereas the daily chart shows a good short setup off the EMA 50. However, it has broken through both trend lines, indicating possible bullish sentiment. However, yesterday by a bar, if it triggers, it'll be below that. Yeah, EMA. This is yeah. I went to these highs here, but similar to the dollar CAD issue we had last week, or a couple of weeks ago, where the daily was giving us a sell signal and the weekly was giving us a buy signal, you'd kind of have to go with the weekly. I've closed close that chart down, so let me just open it again. But even in the weekly, it's back above that trend line. And yes, it's bounced off that major support, so you'd kind of have to go with the weekly. Yeah, I mean the daily, looking at the daily to come down here, have another retest of that support line. It's a tough one. You might want to just focus on the weekly. I don't know if it's going to get through that support. The CAD would have to get pretty strong for that to happen. And you know, I think I'm the only person out there supportive of the CAD being stronger. Look, if in doubt, you know, stay away from the trade, but lean towards the weekly. Everyone's looking at this EuroCAD, as you can see in this list here. There's a lot of EuroCADs and pounds. So strong horizontal at 50 and 200 EMAs and fib. Yeah, long-term fibs providing resistance. Last bar was buy bar, but lower high and lower low. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, C. Yeah. So also likely new Elliott wave 1 after ABC completion. 5 pips below yesterday's stop. It's likely strong support. May break it, so we'll trail stop. That's a good point. If it does break this 44.20 area, you know, where's the support at on the EuroCAD? If it breaks this low here, you know, you're probably looking at the next support area being across, not even there, maybe in here somewhere. There's not much along there. That's the monthly trend line. That's your weekly, the one that you had. It's yeah. If it breaks that, you know, your support's not really down until the sort of 37 area. Maybe the worst case scenario, the 200. But yeah, it's a good point that you make. 67%. Okay, nice. I see convergence in RSI. I'm not sure why that's red. Price is following it, or it's following price. There's no, there's hidden divergence, and that's good. Okay. New trade entered. Dollar Rand long. Mate, really? I don't see much of that. So if you look at gold, I can bring gold up for you. It's really going nowhere and hasn't for a couple of years now. It's stuck on 1300. You look at this is gold price. You know, huge run from the early 2000s of $300 up to, you know, almost 2000. But for the last 2 years, it's just gone sideways. In, you know, pretty much you could box this and say, there's your range there, and this 1300 level is right in the middle of it. Yeah. And it's just sort of chopping either side of that. So with that sort of price action, the market's really not going anywhere. You look at the rand, which is hugely influenced, has a huge influence on the South African currency. I really don't see much of an opportunity. There's a monthly rand. That's the emerging market US dollar tapering issue. There's a strong trend line, yes. But yeah, I'm not so certain of it. Anyway, so let's have a look at your analysis. The swap rate on this, yeah, don't know what the swap rate is, but it'd be pretty heavy, as it would be the pip spread. Exotics, is it? Okay. Yeah, going long, 250 pips. That's a pretty expensive swap. So let's have a look at your analysis. Trend continuation. What is this? Oh, this is a 4 hour. You went in there. Look at your momentum at that time, or it would have been around here. Bounced off the 61. Okay, you've got this horizontal. Okay, look, it all fits your rules. I just didn't like this price action. I don't like it. To me, it's rather messy. You've got that trend line that I drew, and you went for your fib off that. Fair enough. And it's the 61 on the daily off that. And if you're saying, okay, that's your cycle there, and you're looking to go in here, we should have been looking to go in on this day here above that sort of buy bar there. Kind of coming in off this, I think, is a bit is not the ideal entry. Yeah. Tradingview.com. Okay. Higher highs, weekly trend above. No, only the 200. Finding resistance, horizontal resistance. Resistance or support, you mean? RSI conversions, yeah. And again, if you're going in here, RSI is higher. If you'd come in here, RSI would have been around 50. You see what I mean? Is off this buy bar, if you're saying that trend line, the RSI on that day was around 50. You're not going to get it because it's way up here now. Well, actually, I think you went off that bar, so you might be in this trade. I just see this as messy, quite literally. There's some cyclicity here. Tries to do a cycle, fails to make a new high, comes down, breaks a low, and then goes over the 50. It's just mess. However, if you're looking at it as this being a cycle off this weekly trend line, then you should have been trading in here. Yep. Does that make sense? The 4 hour, that could have been okay, but I don't think that would have worked either. You need for the daily to have a reasonable trend in the daily before you start even looking at the 4 hour. I've had a couple of emails about coaching since I'm not exactly sure what's going on in Sydney. I heard that Mark is leaving. As to who your coach is, I don't know. I think maybe Grant is there. I don't know. Syra sent me an email talking. I don't know if Mark has left or not. I heard that well, Syra sent me an email earlier in the week saying that was going to be the case, but I haven't heard anything since. She also emailed me asking if I would do some coaching. I said yes, but I haven't heard anything since. Individual coaching is not what I want to do. And that's what some guys would like me to do, but it's not what I want to do. So, to be honest with you, I need you guys to ask Syra, who's going to be the coach for platinum traders, as I don't know the answer to the question. Syra may not even know the answer to the question yet. So I do apologise that if Mark has left. I know a lot of you guys liked what he had to offer. So it's a bit of a struggle with knowledge to action to maintain some decent staff in there. So you get I'm not sure. Ask Syra. What's her area? Euro pound. I've attached the checklist and chart. Would you appreciate it? Give me feedback. Yep. So that's that one. Sorry, that's your pound. Euro checklist, lower highs. RSI convergence, EMA resistance. I think we are getting EMA resistance, aren't we? It's off the 50. You could have ticked that. Fib retracement. You could have ticked that. Trend line. Euro pound. You could probably tick that. Support in the way. You could probably tick that. Hidden divergence. I think there was that as well. There's a few things there that you didn't pick up on. I'm not sure why your stop would be there, unless you're using an ATR as some sort of description. But I think we've analysed this before this morning. You could be saying, well, do I have trend line resistance? Yeah. Do I have EMA resistance? Yeah. There's hidden divergence. You could say from here, we went through it earlier, but there's a lot of things that in your checklist that you didn't pick up on. Not sure what this is, what you're trying to show me there, unless it was a breakout trade of some sort of channel. But if you could be looking at a channel in terms of going, well, how's that for a channel? Yeah, just throwing that out there. So, pretty concerned that there's quite a bit here that wasn't picked up on, which would add to the trade, but it's good that you're looking at it because it's certainly an opportunity that as we've discussed. What have we got here? Pound. Whose is this? Pound US. Oh, okay. Sorry. No worries, mate. Pound Swiss. We're looking at this one here. Okay. Higher highs above the moving averages. Horizontal support. Not sure. RSI convergence, bullish price action, trendline support, not sure. Well, you've got trendline support, absolutely. You've drawn it in there, so yes, you should be sure. Horizontal, that's a reasonable level. This Fibonacci, I'm hoping you've got that to set a target. 1.8, 155.55, 155.5. I presume, yeah, the 1.618. Okay. You could have your fibs on here. You don't need to. You've probably got enough data there to take the trade. The horizontal support. It's kind of broken through that. There's also a bit of resistance up there as well. I think this is off the first one that we did this morning. You've got this sort of resistance here, which would be a bit of a concern. But yeah, everything else is looking pretty good. Still learning? Yeah, mate. That's all okay. We are all still learning. Okay, so horizontal support, there is minor one there. Resistance, I would say that there is, which is around that 1.272 area, which makes your risk reward pretty ordinary. Yeah, 1.8 already with going to the 1.6. With resistance and support lines, though, like the Euro CAD, they are there, but just like we don't place an order to get in and on the resistance line or a support line, we need to see price react to it. So, you should, if you're looking at it, you should be going, well, okay, there is that there, but it's at least 1.5 times away, 1.5 my risk. If my risk, you might change your risk in terms of using ATR or something like that to get a decent risk reward. But I can't stress enough about your risk reward ratio and making sure that that's always on your side, because that's going to be the key to your success. Getting the percentage of winners. You can be down at 40-50%, but if your risk reward, you need to have it on your side always. Higher highs, higher lows, yes. Horizontal support, yep. Bullish price action, yes. Above the moving averages, no. EMA support, no. Hidden divergence, yeah, see that. Trendline support, no. Good. Fib retracement, yep. RSI convergence, yeah. Okay, that's all good. Score 6, order 50, 0.5%. Fabulous. Target not set. Good stuff. We got 10 emails to go through. So this one, I've sent you an email on the day. Euro CAD we've looked at, but this is all pretty good. I can't remember what I said to you. You emailed this to me yesterday. I can't remember what I said, but everything there is pretty good, mate. It has broken the trend line. Yeah, look, nothing's a perfect world. You're going to have, you've drawn this trend line. I believe it went under it. It didn't close under it, but I believe this bar this bar here that's active at the moment, or in this screenshot, did go under it, didn't close under it. But trend lines and horizontals, it's not always a perfect world. You will get a bit of a push through at times. Just because there's a trend line doesn't mean the market's going to come a screaming halt on it. It's great if it does, but it doesn't always happen like that. And the euro did. You look at the euro, this monthly trend line, those two highs there broke through it, but now it's back under it. So now you'd say that trend line's intact. Well, I would anyway. Okay, it broke through it, but and if you come back to the daily, you spent quite a bit of time above it. But look, that's there is when you go, okay, well, there's an exact touch. But yeah, it's not always a perfect world like that. if that makes sense. Otherwise, it's all good. Not sure 100%, so I'll put 0. A bearish chart pattern. Again, those chart patterns are, as we discussed in platinum, if you're seeing a flag pattern or an ascending triangle pattern, then that's your sort of chart pattern, and I'd like you to note that what that chart pattern you're looking at is, if that makes sense. Kidoki. If it doesn't make sense, just put your hand up or yell out to me. Find the pound seems fairly straightforward. Phase 1, 0.5% risk, whilst I'm still a little negative. Euro Aussie scores well, only 0.2% risk, horizontal soft. Okay. Yeah, this is looking good. I don't know if it got in 68.93. Doubt you would have got in. No, it's a lower high. Would you replace it now? Would you? I'd be removing my order now, because of the BOE. If it comes up here and you get slipped on the on the Bank of England news if they all of a sudden decide to raise rates, which is unlikely, but if they do, then you're going to get a huge bar like this, which could be you get slipped on. So don't be surprised if that happens. But I'd be probably sitting on the sidelines until 9:30 when that comes out, and then maybe having a look at it. But with this kind of bar, you shouldn't be having your order still sitting there. But this is all good. Above the moving averages, horizontal support, RSI, trendline support. No resistance. $1.70. Oversold. Yeah, cool. That's all good. Euro Aussie, which I think much better than the Euro Kiwi. You're in and sitting pretty at this stage, which is good. Below. Trend line's interesting, mate. Not sure what's going on there. This is that head and shoulders break it retest, which is brilliant. Trend line, if we don't that, or you'd be potentially, you could say, well, it's that one, which doesn't offer much. Literally, this is the retest of that shoulder. So there, no, maybe across here. It's not strong. I wouldn't be saying the trend line, which you didn't either. I don't think you did. I know you drew this one. Yeah. Each to their own. I wouldn't put it in there, but you did, so that's okay. Hidden diversions, only just good. All good. The trend lines are subjective, and that's there's plenty of reasons. This one here, I'm not sure why you missed that high, and I think you've drawn it to this high here, and that, or maybe you've gone to that high there, and that's more to say you can get a touch. To me, that if I'd be drawing that to that because that's your head and shoulder, and that to me makes sense as to why you would draw that. That's because that's your head, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Or you'd be using this one, which is, okay, we're now confirmed in a downtrend. This is the retest of that shoulder, the head and shoulder pattern. That's the retest of it. And so then you'll be using that as your starting point for your trend line. So they are a bit subjective, but I'd prefer that we use reasons for why we'd be taking that particular starting point. Yeah. It's getting close towards the support area down here, isn't it? But miles away from previous lows. It's a good short. Just hang on to it. But just with the trend line, it can be very subjective. Drawing that to that, saying, well, that's one cycle, this is a new cycle. Maybe that's a trend line. Personally, I wouldn't put it in there, but I don't mind if you do. So that's your two. Risk reward, I have to ask if I'm correct in calling Monday's bar bearish price action. Monday, it's inside. Yeah, it is. This is a bit of a doji, but that's certainly bearish bar. Being inside, you might have gone in with a little bit of risk, and then when you get the confirmation, going in again with the lower high, lower low. So you do maybe a third of your trade in underneath that bar, and then add 2/3 of your trade in underneath this bar. Sort of just getting your toe in the water in case you're right, and not sort of having a huge. Now you wouldn't be going in under this bar because now you're chasing the market. So get in early, but only with a little bit of risk, so in case you're wrong. Like the Euro Kiwi is looking all right, but obviously got nailed thanks to the Kiwi shitting itself. You'd be a little bit of risk there, and then get the confirmation going under here. Obviously, that's a buy bar, so you wouldn't, and now you've only got a third of your capital being exposed and taken out, rather than a full 1%. Yeah. But yes, that's bearish price action. Yeah, it's a bearish bar, and it's selling where we expect to see selling. So that's what I want when I ask for bearish price action. That's what I'm asking for. It's not a bearish bar like that. It's although that's perfect or better if it is. But are we seeing sellers here where we expect to see sellers? Is what I'm asking for. Okay. Dollar CAD weekly. Have we covered this one? I kind of covered this one a bit. I took this trade on the swing low. Off the swing low, you got your stop loss now because you've got two buyer bars at break even. Nice. Target's there. It's ambitious, not impossible, but it's ambition. Move the stop. Two consecutive bars locked into 40 pip profit. Fabulous. Anticipate some resistance around 1094 or 1096, even more so. Yep. Should I continue to manage this trade on the weekly chart? Yeah. If you entered on the weekly, manage it on the weekly. What does discretion prevail regarding moving my stop? My target of 1.14 within the 12.72 extension seems a million miles away. Well, when you're trading the weekly, it when you're trading the weekly, it does seem miles away. But if you look at a ring low here, you a million miles away would have been up here. Ring low here, a million miles away would actually get you there. The concern now is obviously you've got that high test bar off that off this resistance line. If we take all that off and say, well, the things you're looking at is that, yeah. You might be looking at that. Anyway, you got that resistance of 96 with a high test bar. I would be potentially moving your stop underneath that. How much? How low underneath that bar on Saturday morning would you put it? You might look at the ATR on the weekly and say, well, I'll do 1 times ATR underneath that, or half a times ATR. That's up to you. Yeah. Euro Kiwi. If this forms a ring higher, would I take it again? Yeah, potentially. I like being short euro, but I prefer to be short Kiwi. I think it's got a long way to go. And so, uh, from a fundamental point of view, I think it'll be a bit of a battle and potentially sort of a bit range bound as to who's going to be the weaker currency. Okay, so that's CAD Weekly, nice. Like, yeah, so this is a high test. I'd be certainly sort of getting your stop, even though you find high tests in the middle of a trend like this one. You'd need to be protecting your profit, and you don't want to give away too much of it. But if you'd gone an ATR underneath that close under there, so you would have survived this move and still been in it. So yeah, could potentially still get there, but you've got a test bar to think about now. Euro Kiwi. Euro Kiwi. Trend continuation. Below finding resistance. Look, this is the one that we all took. Got your Fibonacci from there. That's okay. This obviously this horizontal support resistance area. There's a bit of a zone if you take these lows as well. Price is still dicking around here, so it's unfortunately got us all in and then taken us all out again. But yeah, the trend line I've got from there to here. Obviously, still there, still potential. As I said though, I see the Kiwi a bit weaker still, and I could well be wrong on that, but I just see there's a bit of a battle. But if this is a lower high, lower low tomorrow morning, then it's certainly worth a look at. Strong resistance. Kiwi feels oversold for now, but so does Euro. The Euro is certainly oversold for now, with larger divergence than the Kiwi has in terms of divergence. They are both oversold, but I'd say that the Euro is more so. Missed an entry on the dollar Sing short, a good technical setup. I think I disagree with that. Inside seller bar. It's a bit of a tricky one, that one. Looking at the weekly, you could say that almost a range across here. Yeah, just like the Euro Kiwi may well have got you into one. Waiting for entry on pound, Aussie Swiss. Prefer that to the Euro Aussie short. Aussie Swiss, yep. And Kiwi CAD short. Okay, which I doubt would have come through for you now. Another Euro Kiwi. Okay. There is no hidden divergence if taken from the fib, but that is if it's taken from the previous high. Which one is preferred? I'd be looking at just at the peak, you know, that peak there to that peak here, and saying, well, you know, in terms of the cyclicity, then we're getting, you know, the last high there, the last high there. So that's, yeah, I'd be looking for the previous high, not the fib. Okay. Aussie Swiss. Trendline support. Okay. Bullish price action. Yeah. RSI. It's all looking pretty good. Risk reward 5 to 5. Wow. 5.5. Go for it. But yeah, Aussie Swiss is like the Euro Aussie is looking reasonably strong there. And everything you've got in there is all good. Euro Kiwi, another one. Yeah. I'm not drawing my fib retracement from the top of the last move. So it's gonna find any trend line resistance. Not sure about the horizontal they've drawn either, as it is only now on the second touch. Okay, well, you've seen me analyse that a few times, so the fib could work from there. From there, I'd personally go from the one that closes underneath the 50. What's this one? This is Euro Kiwi. Personally go from the one that's closed under the 50 there. The trend line, obviously, you would have been looking at something like this trend line here, potentially, a couple of days ago. Now sort of be looking at that one. But yeah, that's there, and I've got this horizontal at 58.30. If we go back to the weekly, it's not that strong. But you get 1, 2, you get a few more touches along here than you do if you go off this one, off this low here. Swiss yen. Swiss yen. This is looking good. Yen's getting pretty strong at the moment, thanks to Russians deciding to be annoying again. Looks good. You've got stuff going everywhere. I don't know what that one is. But yeah, it's heading in the right direction for you. May have even got there, did it? Did it hit your target? Oh no, maybe not. $1.12. Don't think it got to $1.12, did it? Oh yeah, but through there. Low of 12.10. What was your target? Was 11.93. Just missed. Yeah, it's all looking good, mate. Good trend line. Good stuff. Okay, last one and then a couple of questions. Euro Sing and Aussie Kiwi. Euro Sing. Euro Sing. Phase 2 trade. Trend reversal, double bottom seen on the chart, area chart. Suggesting imminent, just a sec. May go sideways for a bit longer. Euro inside bar today. Singapore still bullish. Dollar index still strong. Haven't broken resistance level. I like the way you think. Double bottom here on an area chart. Not, yeah, borderline. Certainly getting that divergence coming up off the off its lows, or the momentum coming up off its lows. Certainly an extension area. 2 being a good support. You'd probably have either stops under here still, or at least maybe underneath this area here. But that's, phase 2 trades are always pretty tricky and not as easy to trade and manage as a phase 1. And sometimes they're like this, they start looking good and then they decide to tank again. So that's why you've got to get your stops managed pretty well. I forgot to include on the screen. I think I'm going to include another dimension to my checklist. Bit fed up with being taken out with getting into a phase 2 trade too early. I don't think I would bother with phase 2 trades moving forward for a while, but feel I'm missing out on what could be good opportunities. Dimension, I'm thinking I was waiting for a price to form on double bottom, but before taking the trade, and then when you're in a profit coming out day 3, could you let me know what you think about this strategy? You're not always going to get a double bottom. I mean, you look at the QE, you look at the Euro, this is not a double bottom. It's clearly a lower low, but a huge divergence there. Whereas the Kiwi, what did you move for? The Kiwi again is not a double bottom. But I kind of like what you're thinking in terms of saying, well, I'm not going to trade phase 2s unless there's these particular parameters, and you can add more parameters to your checklist. So I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, I don't know if the double bottoms is going to be there, and don't feel like you're missing out. If you're not trading phase 2, there's opportunities in phase 1 on various time frames. Okay. Aussie Kiwi range reversal, range RL, is it? Potential RL. I have heard that if you see a high test bar follow the next day by a low test bar at a level of resistance, this can be an indication that the institutions are testing the strength of the buyers, sellers. Right. If this is the case, and for example today's bar forms a low test, could there be a case for using this as a ring low formation, placing a pending order tomorrow? I don't buy into that whole bullshit about institutions testing. Didn't quite get to the area that I wanted to buy in. I only just missed it. What I'm potentially seeing here is that there's we've got divergence, and if this is lower high, lower low, potential range trade going on here with the 200 flat, looking for this to go short. Not exactly sure. A low test bar, I don't see any low test bars. I see a high test bar. I've never heard of that description of if it's a low test bar followed by a high test bar, then that's those institutions testing people. I think institutions have got better things to do than worry about what the speculators are doing. You're talking about, here's a low test, and then followed by a high test, followed by another high test, another high test, another high test. But these are all high test bars, but the market's rallying. What the institutions are doing, I don't think really. I don't buy into that bullshit. But each to their own. Personally, what I see here is coming up and retesting this $1.10 level. momentum's on the top side, so it may get to $1.12, which is where I was expecting it to sort of go and where I wanted to be in on it. But there's a bit of a resistance area here, and personally I think I might sort of come back and hopefully get us an entry around here to go long. So I'm not trading this at the moment. Okay, right. Aussie Swiss, do you see a rising wedge? No. I see higher highs. 1, 2, 3 higher highs and higher lows. I don't see any wedge. Go to the weekly. No, I don't see any wedge. I see higher highs. No, sorry, mate. Okay, that's it for today, guys. We'll be back on tomorrow, and I'll answer those emails that have sort of come in throughout the course of today's proceedings. But thanks for your time, and I'll chat to you tomorrow. Be careful. Good luck with ECB and BOE tonight. Be careful of them, and we'll chat again tomorrow.